welcome everybody to this LinkedIn Mastering LinkedIn Ads with Supermetrics and LinkedIn webinar we're running today. I'm the, let's see, sorry, having a bit of an issue with this. I'll be one of your hosts today. I'm Sophie from Supermetrics, the performance marketing lead here, really eager LinkedIn advertiser. So super stoked to be talking to you guys today about this topic. And with me, I have Greg from LinkedIn.
Yeah, guys, my name is Greg. I'm what's called a client solutions manager here at LinkedIn. I work with some of our clients in the tech vertical in the United Kingdom, helping them, basically acting as a consultant to help them use LinkedIn as a marketing platform as effectively as possible. So delighted to be here, delighted to present, and yeah, looking forward to answering your questions later on.
Awesome. And then we have a packed agenda for you guys today. Here's a bit what we'll talk about. So Greg will take us through some of the advantages of advertising on LinkedIn, what makes LinkedIn unique as an advertising platform, some tips and tricks on successful LinkedIn campaigns. And then I'm going to talk a bit about how to measure and optimize LinkedIn ads using Supermetrics. And then we'll close off with some trends to look forward to in 2023 and beyond in B2B marketing. And as we mentioned up top, if you have questions you'd like to ask, please drop them in the Q&A box. And we'll pick a few to answer at the end. And we also have some of our people from both LinkedIn and Supermetrics answering some of the questions during this session. But then I think the stage is yours, Greg.
Brilliant. So 222 lovely individuals that are here today to listen to me talk about LinkedIn. So yeah, couldn't be more delighted to be here. Thank you so much to Supermetrics for having us. So do business where business is done. So like when we think about what makes LinkedIn unique, I think first we need to go back to, I guess, the typical challenges that marketers still face every day. So the first one, a complex buying journey. Like every B2B marketer can attest to this. Like these sales cycles can take 6, 12, 18 months to actually deliver results. And then the amount of stakeholders involved in that can be like typical, like it's on average about 6.8. I don't know who's 0.8 of a person typically, but that's the statistic. So there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen there, and there's a long sales cycle. So us as marketers, we need to ensure that we're shortening that sales cycle as much as possible and touching everybody in that buying committee. And then next, distracted buyers. If you think about a typical buyer persona, they're only looking into solution roughly about 17% of the time. And when we're in this kind of hybrid world where, you know, there's a lot of different things going on and the lines between your professional life and your personal life are getting increasingly blurred, like you need to kind of capture that person's attention when they're in the right mindset to do business. And finally, internal pressures to prove value. Arguably the most important challenge. Marketers every day still struggle to prove that every single effort from a spend perspective is moving the needle in a positive way. And thank God I have Supermetrics on this call. It's easily one of the biggest challenges that my clients still face. And even just the statistics here, 63% of marketers don't feel very confident in their ROI measurements today. And 82% of marketers are unable to attribute revenue to campaigns. It's one of the biggest pieces we work with clients. LinkedIn has tons of things, and Supermetrics, Jesus Christ, thank God. Tons of options for you guys to choose from, but it is a big looming challenge. And that's pretty much what we try and align with LinkedIn. It's to do business where business is done. We're very proud to say that we're one of the B2B platforms on the market today. We have the audience for you to target decision makers at scale. From there, you can drive meaningful engagement on the platform. We're in the right mindset to do business. And on the platform, one of the most trusted platforms on the internet. Again, think back in terms of when you're on LinkedIn, you have a purpose. With other platforms, you're wasting time. On LinkedIn, you're investing time. And I will go through that in just a moment. So when we talk about the audience here, so we have about 850 million members on LinkedIn. Now, if you think about your profile, you're ultimately incentivized to keep your profile up to date. We have a documented CV of every person on our platform. So from a targeting perspective or from a marketing perspective, you can target stakeholders in a very targeted way. For example, you can target CEOs in a particular function. Let's say it's finance, or let's say it's marketing, at every level, from manager, director, CXO, partner, whatever it is. LinkedIn gives you that in a very accurate and easy way to do so.
I think this is really where we see, as a B2B marketers, as ourselves as well, like the value of LinkedIn. Like you know that the audiences will be up to date and will be like the right titles and the right companies, because they are, like always, the people are updating their profiles, you know. So I think this is really where LinkedIn is really unique.
Sophie, I said this to you before, but I think I'm going to get you in every single one of my client pitches going forward. So like absolutely, like this is easily one of the biggest differentiators. Most other social media platforms are very, very focused on what's called interest-based data. So things you engage with, website you visited, etc. But like we're very much focused on what's called first-party data, data that you've actually given to us. So it's far less intrusive. Like you've given us your job title, you've given us the company you work in, the job function, etc. So we're able to leverage that from a B2B perspective in a lot more trusted and meaningful way. And when we talk about the mindset to do business, like I said, when you're on LinkedIn, you're there to invest time. You're either there to increase your professional brand, network with other people in your industry. And when you're on other platforms, you're there to ultimately waste time. Like, for example, when I use other social media platforms, I absorb memes, YouTube videos, and football content. When I'm on LinkedIn, it's all about increasing my professional brand, connecting with colleagues in LinkedIn, for example, understanding what's going on in the tech space. And when I'm in that mindset, it's a completely different mindset to when I'm on other channel. So that obviously lends itself quite well to B2B, or quite well to advertising in general, because when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm in a professional mindset. So if you serve me up a piece of content that's maybe relevant to the needs and challenges that I have right now from a professional perspective, that holds weight. So it's something that's, I don't even think it's talked about often enough when it comes to the LinkedIn platform, but that professional mindset is super valuable and a big differentiator compared to other channels. Now, how to drive business growth where business is done. So just before we go ahead here, just in terms of like actually kind of setting up a campaign, I will go into detail about this a little bit later, but we typically recommend what's called a brand marketing and demand marketing approach, or the coin term would be brand and demand. And what that means is, like, when you talk about like demand marketing, that's basically kind of like lower funnel or lead generation activity. So you're basically capitalizing on the people who maybe want to learn more about your product or services right now. But when you have the brand layer, you're capitalizing on those people who may not be in the market to actually kind of like consider your solution right now, but they're still important to engage because at some point they will be. So where demand marketing kind of focuses on that short term, kind of tapping into those people who are ready to buy now, demand marketing is looking longer term. It's nurturing people to make an informed decision later down the line. And it's something I will talk about later in the deck when we get into the trends, but it's super important to have a balance between them both. And executing a marketing strategy on LinkedIn, we typically break it out into 4 steps. There's planning for objectives. Step 2 is finding the right audience. Step 3 is launching campaigns. And step 4 is measuring results. So planning for objectives. It's super important to call out when you set up a campaign in Campaign Manager, one of the first things it does, it asks you for an objective. So, and it breaks it out into like either the stage of the funnel. I'm sure you guys have probably heard about the funnel to death by now, but it's typically broken out into 3 stages. Awareness, top of the funnel. Consideration is the middle of the funnel. And then conversion would be that bottom funnel, like lead gen activity. And when you choose an objective on LinkedIn, it will optimize towards that objective as well, in both the objective that you actually want to achieve and the actual piece that you're actually paying for. So for example, with brand awareness, the focus is typically reach. You want to reach as many people as possible to raise awareness of the message that you're trying to serve. So you'll typically pay on a CPM basis, which is cost per 1,000 impressions. And if you want to drive people to your website, for example, you would pick the website visits objective, and you will typically pay on a CPC basis. And our platform will then show people who are more likely to click on your ad and visit your website. So it also just aligns to exactly what you're trying to get out of your spend as well. I will talk about that a little bit in just a moment, but it is the very first thing it will ask you. Next is actually to find an audience. So like I said, the things that you have available on LinkedIn, the targeting attributes, it's all first-party data. It's data that you've given to us. It's on your LinkedIn profile. We do have interest-based segments, but we primarily depend on what, like, your first-party attributes. For example, your job title, the company you work in, the size of that company, the industry you work in, maybe the years of experience that you've been working generally on your profile. Like your education, do you have a bachelor's degree, do you have a master's, etc., and then all the way down to skills. Now this is an important thing to know for skills is actually the skills you list on your profile, but also the keywords you list on your profile as well. It's super important to differentiate that, because like skills, there is a cap, but the keywords on your profile, for example, can add more layers and more kind of, like, I guess, allow you to target people in a much more targeted way. Say, for example, you have a project manager and you want to target them in a particular function who have maybe experience in Scrum, but they don't have that listed on their profile, or sorry, listed in the skills in their profile, but they have it listed maybe in their description or underneath a job. Skills will allow you to target that people and kind of narrow that down just a little bit further. So in terms of reaching a qualified audience, there is no better platform from a B2B perspective than LinkedIn.
And Greg, just wanted to ask, do you have any favorites or preferences, recommendations on like what audiences or targeting you would always recommend a client to start with or go with here?
That's a really good question, Sophie. So typically, I would recommend that clients primarily use job function and seniority, and I'll tell you why. Like, if we go back to a point earlier on in the presentation about targeting that overall buying committee, like there's tons of people who are involved in that decision. Like if people typically want to target, for example, the CFO or the CEO, because they're the ones at the end of the deal that signed the dotted line. But the reality is there's actually so many chefs in that kitchen who are kind of cooking up that solution. So it's in your best interest to kind of touch on them all. So like, yeah, job function and seniority are kind of primarily my favorite ones. I will talk about kind of account-based marketing later on in the presentation. So that layered with like what's called an ABM approach is very, very powerful for businesses. And it's where I'm actually seeing the best results with some of my bigger clients.
Great, thank you.
Cool. No problem. So, and then when we just think about targeting as well, you do have access to those first party attributes, but you do have also access to what's called our matched audiences. Matched audiences, if you upload a company list, for example, or a contact list of maybe individuals that are in your CRM, we will match them with their LinkedIn profiles, or in the instance of company lists, we'll match them to companies that are on LinkedIn. So that would be typically for what's called an account-based marketing approach. You're targeting those specific companies that are meaningful for your business. And retargeting as well. Retargeting is something that's becoming increasingly important for my clients, particularly if you're investing in that brand and demand approach. Like you can retarget people. Retargeting meaning you serve somebody who made a specific action, maybe on one of your ads, maybe they visited your website, maybe they visited your company page or an event, and kind of collect that audience and then target them with another message. It's definitely one of the most powerful vehicles on LinkedIn, and like you will see a shift from, I guess, primarily like people think of when they think of retargeting, they think of retargeting people from their website. You will see a shift in the coming years, not only on LinkedIn, on most other platforms, moving over to what's called first party retargeting. So you already probably know video view retargeting, single image ad retargeting, retargeting from ads and people and actions on platform as opposed to actions off platform. So it's an important thing to note. And not only that, we have lookalike audiences. It will look at an existing audience that you put into LinkedIn, and it will match them based on maybe their job titles, their actions. It will find people who are similar to those people you've listed. And then audience expansion as well. So audience expansion will also look at the audience you've outlined and then expand your reach to people who they think is similar based on maybe their function, their job, and any other actions that they've made on LinkedIn. And then actually launching campaigns. This is actually where the fun stuff comes in. Once you've actually selected your objective, selected your audience, Next is actually the creative stuff. So like we have tons of ad formats to choose from. You will see a bunch of other ad formats coming out over the next year and beyond. Sponsored content would be what's called the bread and butter of LinkedIn. We have video ads, single image ads, and carousel ads. Some of them, most of them, you're probably familiar with. Sponsored messaging, I feel like, is a somewhat undervalued one. It's something I really do try and get my clients on board with, because from a lead generation perspective, I typically see very, very good results with it. The big differentiator with it is a member can only receive one message ad every 30 days. So once you gain that placement, nobody else can reach them in their inbox for another 30 days. And from an engagement perspective, or even from a lead generation perspective, it is super powerful. So if you are running lead generation campaigns, which if you're advertising on LinkedIn, I'm going to assume you are, sponsored messaging is definitely something good to run in tandem, because if you lock that placement for 30 days and have stuff running on the LinkedIn newsfeed, having both of them running in tandem is super powerful to your marketing activities. So it's definitely worth calling out. Conversation ads has come out over the last few years as well. It's similar to message ads, but it does what's called a choose your own path experience. I always feel like I'm playing some sort of RPG game or something like that when I say that, but it basically, like, you can pick an option. So for example, if I serve up a white paper, or launch an ad in your inbox to ask you to register for an event, you can select yes or no. And if you select no, I can then serve you up another piece of content that's appropriate for the stage you are in that buying journey. So it just allows a little bit more flexibility and just a different option to nurture that person along their journey if you don't get their contact details. And then sorry, Sophie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask on the message ads, if you were looking, like, if you only can see one every or like a user can only see one every 30 days, would you say that then it maybe takes like 30 days also to like assess that campaign once you put it live, if there might be some users that don't get the message until you've maybe run it for 30 days, or is there a shorter or longer period you would recommend?
No, again, Jesus, Sophie, you're really great with the questions. Message ads is actually served up a little bit differently to sponsored content, for example. Like if you think about you're sending out 200 letters for a wedding, you wouldn't send out 2 or 3 a day for 30 days. You would send out all of them in the first day. There's a few reasons for that. Message ads is by far one of the most competitive placements on our platform. Sometimes clients will actually struggle to spend their budget because the placement is taken by a competitor. Because the placement is premium and very short, like clients will sometimes struggle to actually deliver that budget. So I actually tell clients to try and spend their budget within the first 2 days. So basically if you have a lifetime budget of, let's say it's 5,000 euros, I would say try and make a daily budget 2,500 and your lifetime 5,000, and make the campaign go on for a few weeks just in case it doesn't spend fully. So you won't spend more than the budget allocated, but you'll get those sends out as quick as possible, and you'll lock that placement out as soon as possible. That's the most important thing. One final piece to maybe add on to that is because message ads is currently not serving in the European Union, that means there has been an influx of advertisers in places like the United Kingdom or in the US, which again increases competition for that placement. So that's why we really do advocate for clients to try and spend their budget within the first 2 or 3 days.
Really interesting. Definitely very different from how you do other advertising. So great to get that insight.
Yeah, no, it's a weird one, because even the way it's like kind of set in Campaign Manager, it's the exact same as sponsored content, let's face it. So it doesn't differentiate that. So yeah, that's where, like, working with an account team in LinkedIn, for example, they would give you that kind of level of insight to help you elevate those results further. And lastly, like the additional ad formats, you'll see dynamic ads and text ads. These are currently only available on the desktop experience of LinkedIn, but they are super powerful, typically because the CPM floor price is actually a lot lower than, for example, sponsored content or kind of any other format. But it also just increases your frequency in a different placement. You have an additional placement on our platform with your logo, and you basically just get additional exposure. And we know we have tons of data points that point to with increased exposure to your to your ads or to your logo or to your content, like it means that people are far more likely to actually take action and, for example, become a lead or engage with your content. So if you can increase that frequency across LinkedIn, you're far more likely to get better results. It's one of the biggest pieces we actually focus on with even some of our biggest spenders. If you can increase the amount of times you're seen, you'll get better results. It kind of makes sense as well, right? If you see like Coca-Cola, like a number of times in 1 month, you're probably more likely to drink Coca-Cola. So, and it's a big piece in brand awareness as well. Like if you get increased exposure over like a shorter period, they're far more likely to remember your message and they're far more likely to take action. It's the exact same. That's what I recommend you use dynamic ads and text ads for. Dynamic ads are actually good for follower campaigns as well, if you have ever considered that. But they're the two pieces that primarily drive that, to be honest. It's more kind of frequency on the platform to kind of encourage people to take action down the line. And maybe one of our most popular placements, it's called lead gen forms. I'm sure we have plenty of people whose objective is lead generation on this call right now. So basically what it is if you click an ad on LinkedIn, this form here in front of you will instantly pop up and it will pre-populate all of the information based on what the user has given us. For example, their email, their first name, last name, and all they have to do is just click submit, and they can either download your white paper, they could request a demo, they could sign up for a newspaper. We typically see far higher conversion rates off this versus conversion rates off platform. So the conversion rates off platform can be anywhere between like 1 to 3, sometimes like 5%. And on platform, it can be 7, 10, all the way up to 14, 15%. So like the power there to actually accumulate more leads is super obvious. And it's actually the piece that most of our clients is using at the moment. So if you haven't seen this platform, or if you have any questions about this placement, feel free to pop them in the chat and I'm happy to take them towards the end. Cool. And now the good stuff, actually measurement results. So we do have pieces in Campaign Manager that will help you kind of like attribute, for example, leads generated, cost per leads. If you're doing brand awareness, we obviously have like metrics around impressions, like unique reach, frequency, engagement. We do have clear metrics to align to the objective that you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to generate leads, for example, the core KPI would be your cost per lead and the leads you're generating. And for example, follower campaign, the followers you're generating and the cost per follow to suit. We actually will have some other pieces that we'll be introducing down the line as well that I'm super excited about. I can't share them, but no spoilers. But in terms of measuring your objective, it's important to actually align the metric that you're trying to achieve against the objective of the campaign. So brand awareness, for example, like impressions are unique served against a particular audience. You will have seen brand lift surveys that we have recently released. That's been going down super well with my clients, as well as kind of like video views, view rate, view completion rate. But the important piece around brand awareness is actually reach and frequency and engagement. It's reaching a good portion of that target audience, about like at least 5 times per month, and engaging them in a meaningful way. And I will talk about that in detail once I go into the trends. But, you know, one piece, you'll see all of these metrics here. The biggest piece I can really emphasize on is the business impact. And something that even I'm trying to get my clients to do is to always talk internally around the business impact of what their campaigns are generating. Like CTR is good, impressions are great, engagement rate is great. All of those metrics are obviously important, but it's the business impact that we really need to get visibility on. And I think that's what Supermetrics is hopefully going to provide for you, a more kind of clear solution on how to actually get clarity on that. But it's one of the most important pieces that I'm constantly trying to advocate with my clients, is always talk about the business outcome. For example, if they're generating X amount of leads, how much influence revenue is that potentially? If someone generates an opportunity, It's primarily talking about the opportunities and the potential revenue on the line. It's always going back to the business impact. That's by far one of the most important pieces that we look at LinkedIn with our clients. And Sophie, I believe it's over to you if you want to speak about all the lovely stuff in Supermetrics.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been super interesting already. And yeah, let's get down to the measuring part, which is Supermetrics bread and butter. So for those of you who are joining and haven't yet used Supermetrics, we're a company born out of the need to automate data data transfers and getting data to where you want it from the platforms where you have it. So we're a data pipeline company, and we at these days we have over 100 data sources that we connect to. Two of them being LinkedIn. So we have both the LinkedIn Ads connector and the LinkedIn Public Pages connector, which brings in then your organic or social media metrics as well as the ad metrics. And then we have over 15 destinations. So whether you want to bring your ad data to a spreadsheet, some kind of visualization or BI tool, or some kind of data warehouse or cloud storage solution, we most likely have what you're looking for. And yeah, that's us in a nutshell. So I wanted to highlight two of our really cool solutions, one of them being our spreadsheet solution here. So our solutions are really easy to, especially the spreadsheet solution is really easy to take into use. You can just log into Google Sheets, for instance, and download the extension and set up connect to or log into the ad platforms and start pulling data almost within like 5 to 10 minutes. And we have this really cool sidebar where you, as I said, you log into the ad platform, you then pick your metrics and dimensions and dates and filterings and all that good stuff. And then you just press the Get Data to Table button, and you'll start seeing that data show up in the spreadsheet. And once you're happy with what the data is, you can set up automated refresh that refreshes like hourly, daily, weekly, or even monthly. And then you'll always have that data you need right at your fingertips. And we have both a solution for Google Sheets and for Excel. So whether you're a Microsoft or a Google user, we are here to serve you.
Just if I could jump in here, like some of my most successful clients, like they mostly have their data in one place. Going back to those challenges of marketers are constantly under pressure to prove value. So having clear visibility on what your marketing channels is doing, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is, that is super, super important. And if you can link that back with your CRM activity, how leads are moving, and clearly attribute your activity directly to that channel, that's where you're spending money on, that's super powerful. So my clients who are, either my biggest clients or my most sophisticated clients are using solutions like this. So genuinely, if you really want to elevate your marketing results further, this is something that I would seriously consider. It would not only make my life easier, but I swear to God, it will make your life 10 times easier.
Yeah, that has really been like for somebody like ourselves, Supermetrics, we run ads on anywhere between like 5 and 9 different platforms at any given time. So instead of having to log into all those platforms separately and check what the spend is, what the performance is, we can just like create the one master dashboard or one master spreadsheet and then check everything from there and make decisions on how we want to proceed with those campaigns in each platform. So that has been a great way. And as you said, yeah, we have connectors for different types of sales and CRM systems as well. So you can bring in your e-commerce data from Shopify or your Salesforce data and really like close that loop and have all that data in one view for to really like remove those silos. And we also, and then for just wanted to highlight that we have a lot of metrics and dimensions. So you should probably find what you're looking for, because I think we have something like 80 metrics and 90 dimensions for the public pages and 70 metrics and 80 dimensions for the ads connector. So there's really a lot to choose from. And I'm also super happy to announce that our developer team has been really actively working on the LinkedIn ads connector recently. And we just on Tuesday launched a new update, which will bring more filtering based on campaign level filtering for demographic data. So if you are already a user of our LinkedIn connector or have tried it in the past, I really recommend going in and checking how you can now filter stuff on the campaign level, because that's been a really great unlock and something people have been asking us for a while, and finally got that to market. And then we also have our Data Studio connector or Data Studio destination here, which is a really good tool for more like visually pleasing dashboards that are easily shareable. And there as well, we've tried to make starting using them really easy and fast. So when you go into Google Data Studio, you log in, you select that Supermetrics LinkedIn ads connector from the connector gallery. You can just tap a box during the login process that says use template, and you'll have this that I'm showing you right in front of you with your own data in like a few seconds. And then if what we've set up for you already or doesn't exactly serve you, you can go in, tweak everything, set up what filterings and breakdowns you want, and then share it with people that don't have access to LinkedIn or just need a quick overview. Maybe they have something for the CMO to look at, or somebody like a really like overview, which is nice looking and easily digestible. So I think these are kind of the best of both worlds. Like in spreadsheet, you have the flexibility of getting the data there, and then you can do all your calculations and combinations. And then on Data Studio, you get like beautiful reports quickly, and they always update when you open them. So they should always be up to date anytime you're looking at them. And yeah, that's it for Supermetrics. So let's go to advertising trends for 2023 and beyond.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sophie. And like, I'm super excited about what Supermetrics are going to bring to the table with LinkedIn, I guess, in the coming year. I know there's some exciting stuff in the pipeline, so I can't wait to see that come to life with even my clients. But yeah, advertising trends for 2023 and beyond. So 3 pieces we're going to focus on here: brand on demand, account-based marketing, and retargeting through engagement data. So first piece here. So brand on demand, you probably have heard this term coined around for quite a long time, but I think it's something that my clients are definitely taking a lot more seriously over the last year, and definitely like increasingly from next year and far beyond. So maybe just going back for a second now, something that we always talk about here at LinkedIn, it's what's called the 95-5 rule. So when you're doing like lead generation campaigns, I'm sure most people on this call, if you're using LinkedIn, you're doing it for lead gen, let's face it, but you're only tapping into about 5% of that market that's actually in the market to buy right now. But there's actually like 95% of people like who are just not in the market to buy your solution right now. But they're obviously important to your business, right? They're probably like have like or don't have a solution in place, but they probably need one down the line, or they have a solution in place and they're looking to change. So it's important to also tap into them as well. It's important to engage with those people. And that's really where brand shines. It allows you to tap into that 95% and nurture them to make an informed decision later down the line. Whereas going back to the brand piece earlier on, whereas the demand piece is tapping into that 5%, it's that low hanging fruit. So you as a marketer, you want to basically try and touch both. So here at LinkedIn, we advocate for a kind of like a balanced approach between brand and demand. And how that looks, it's typically like a 60-40 split. 60% of your budget goes towards brand and 40% of your budget goes towards demand. Honestly, my most successful clients are doing this, and I'll tell you what makes it so successful. Obviously, you're nurturing people on like who are maybe not in the market to buy right now, but you're also building up an audience for retargeting. I will go into retargeting also in just a moment, but that's ultimately how you can leverage brand quite well. You can build what's called a high intent audience. You build up an audience of people who are far more likely to convert than just targeting people cold. So it's really, really powerful. If you can use that richer content to engage with people and not ask for anything in return, you can serve up a video, maybe talking about some pieces you're working on, maybe it's your product, and then feeding that into the demand part is actually retargeting some of those people who maybe watched like 90% of your video, for example, with a next step message. It's definitely the winning formula, and clients are definitely catching on to this in the last few months, and definitely the plans and the discussions I'm having with clients right now, that's going to feed in quite heavily into the new year, particularly now that I guess the economic circumstances are looking quite uncertain. So having that brand approach will kind of solidify yourself as a leader, even on LinkedIn, and just the lead gen efforts that you're actually doing. You're targeting people who are a lot more likely to actually convert in the long game. So it's super, super important to have that balanced approach, and it will be something that will carry through to 2023 and beyond. Next is account-based marketing. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with account-based marketing, but you know, account-based marketing, I think, is something that maybe is somewhat underutilized on LinkedIn. People seem to just use it to just identify people who are a fit for their business. But so if you don't know, account-based marketing is when you identify a list of companies that are fit for your business, and then you do targeted campaigns based on those companies. But what we're really trying to do is to dig into that CRM and try and get people at every stage of that journey. So for example, like, not only is it important to actually identify those companies who are actually meaningful, but maybe like the companies that you're currently talking to, for example, how do you serve them up with a piece of content to actually kind of nurture them further? Maybe it's somebody who's an opportunity. How do you actually kind of serve up a piece of content for them to nurture them further along the journey? So this is actually something that's quite important for my clients right now. If they get an opportunity through, or if they get a sales qualified lead, they need to ensure that that person moves all the way down to the finish line, especially now. So this is something that's really becoming big in our conversations, and it's something that we're really trying to steer clients towards, because we know if we can touch someone at every stage of that journey, we're far more likely to win revenue. So we actually do have a few other pieces in the pipeline as well related to account-based marketing that should kind of like roll out towards next year. And I think, Sophie, correct me if I'm wrong, you have something as well, is that correct?
Yeah, we have a ongoing ABM project with LinkedIn, actually working on ABM measurement, the ABM measurement piece. So I think we'll have some exciting stuff about that coming up as well towards the end of the year or early next year. And just want to say that ABM is something we've also been experimenting with as for our own marketing recently, and it's really shows where you have to like step out of your silos and really work with your sales team and not work separately as maybe you sometimes otherwise do. So it's a really interesting exercise and requires some silo breaking, but we've had a really good learnings and success with it recently on LinkedIn.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there. Like, aligning sales and marketing is easily one of the most important pieces a business can do, because your piece directly feeds into sales. You're ultimately there to drive results and revenue. Beyond CTR, beyond impressions, like, again, focusing on that business outcome. So aligning with sales is that first step, and getting complete clarity on how the leads you're generating are moving is the next step. So definitely a project worth doing anyway. I've been there before, it's painful, but you will get there. Yeah, it will be worth it in the long run, I promise. And the last piece, retargeting through engagement data on LinkedIn. Like I said before, you will see a shift from what's called third-party data. So for example, retargeting people through website visits, and actually moving to first-party data. So actually retargeting people with a video ad, or like somebody who visited an event. Maybe it's somebody who opened your lead gen form but actually didn't convert, or it could be somebody who's actually just visited your company page. This is by far going to be one of the most important steps that LinkedIn is going to take. because you can build a much larger qualified audience. And like there is obviously a correlation with a total addressable audience and the results you can actually generate from that audience. So for example, like an audience of 300 members, it's quite hard to actually generate results from 300 members. But if you can build a bigger audience, and again, this feeds back into brand and demand, this feeds back into ABM. If you can generate a larger pool to play around with, you're far more likely to get better results. So I think the single image ad retargeting only came out over the last, I think 6 months, but that is the first step of some of the really most important steps that LinkedIn is going to take over the next year. And the conversations I have with my clients is that brand and demand approach, and using that engagement from that brand and demand approach to then directly feed into your demand activity. So if you're not doing this, LinkedIn Marketing Labs, we do have a certification online. It breaks through the kind of foundations and a more kind of advanced piece. I would highly recommend you go through that because it will touch on some of these pieces. And like if you have a LinkedIn rep, for example, feel free to pick their brain and understand how you can use that to inform your strategy as well. Cool. And I think we are all done. So we have 15 minutes left, guys. We have 79 questions in the Q&A. So I will open the Q&A now and we will go.
I've been having keeping an eye on that, and I have immediately one question for you, Greg. I think from Avis is asking, is there ad fatigue with LinkedIn ads that you need to be aware of?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like what I would say about ad fatigue is just watch your metrics closely. Like for example, if you notice that, for example, your engagement rate is declining, or maybe the cost per lead is increasing, like that might be a time to actually kind of switch up that content if your objective is lead generation. But if you, for example, if you're serving up, like I have clients that have white papers that last them forever, and the cost per lead looks great, they can continuously optimize towards getting that cost per lead down, and like they're fine. Like you can use the same piece of content so long as it actually is driving positive results from you. So maybe one thing to note is one piece to kind of take into account is frequency. So just to answer your question a little bit differently, frequency is also super important for campaigns. You want to reach people more times to encourage them to take action, but there is obviously such thing as too many times. So typically when you get kind of like over that 12 mark, like reaching people 12 times over, for example, 30 days, that can be a little bit overkill. And sometimes you can see that your results actually start to wane. So like I would actually keep, if you're looking at ad fatigue, for example, I would primarily focus on your engagement and the frequency that you're generating on those people. So how many times are you actually reaching those people? And if you see that, for example, your cost per result starts to increase or your engagement starts to decrease, then I would consider switching it up.
Awesome. And I looked at some more on the questions, and I think there's a lot of questions on some recommended minimum spends. Keeping in mind we have some global audiences, is there some minimum daily or monthly ad spend that you think is like at least, or yeah, the minimum that should be invested in ads for it to make sense to run campaigns on LinkedIn?
Yeah, like how long is a piece of string? Sometimes I really wish I had that answer. To be honest, like I would really focus. This is why I want you to focus on the business outcome. Like it's super important to focus on that business outcome. So I think with my role, for example, a lot of the time, like I'm obviously a consultant. I'm a consultant with our clients in the tech vertical in the UK, but a lot of what I do is manage expectations. Ultimately, I'm coming to clients, they'll tell me what budget they have, and I'll tell them what they could potentially achieve out of that budget. And then I'll understand their objectives, what they're actually trying to do, if they're trying to generate leads, to generate more sales qualified leads, more opportunities. And then we'll go from there and put together maybe a budget that will actually fit that solution. That's primarily how you want to do it. Now, how you do that like there's obviously different ways to skin a cat, but in this instance, like if I was to answer this quite simply, I would ask yourself what you actually want to achieve out of this. And I would also take into account the audience as well, because each audience does have for example, a cost per click specifically for that audience, and that's based on competition for that audience. Or like, for example, it can be the region you're targeting, the country you're targeting, the individuals, etc., the seniority. So like a simple way of doing this to call it out, if you want one lead, if your benchmark for your conversion rate is 10%, just I'm bad at math, so 10% is an easy one. That means that 1 out of 10 of your clicks is going to generate a lead. Then next, if you know how much you're going to pay per click, so Campaign Manager does tell you that when you select an audience and then you go all the way down to the bottom and pick the manual bidding option, it will give you a bid range of where other advertisers are bidding. So pick a number in that range and then multiply it by 10. So let's say the cost per click is £10. That means that 10 clicks, that's what, 100. And then if you know that 7% of or 10% of your clicks are going to generate one lead, then you need, then your cost per result is going to be whatever. You know what I mean? That's a simple way of forecasting. So 10% of your clicks are going to generate one lead. Like, how many clicks do you need to generate one lead? Or how much is it going to cost you to generate those clicks? That's a very simple way of doing it. So I would base it off the audience itself, what the manual bid function is actually telling you. I know the golden rule that some clients use is, okay, if I'm going to use pound sterling, because obviously I'm in the UK market, it would be £100 per an audience of 50,000 people. But again, that's just kind of like a baseline. Base it off the audience and the objective you want to achieve.
Yeah, and now just some housekeeping here in the middle, that we are going to launch a poll, and so please, we would be really happy if all of the participants could answer that, and we're going to continue with the Q&A, of course, here. You'll see it pop up on your screen right about now. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, there's a question about targeting. So if I choose to target CEOs, why do I see many other positions targeted in my report?
Okay, good question. So there could be a few pieces going on there. So if you're targeting the job title CEO, sometimes people can have more than one role. For example, someone who's a CEO can also be an investor. They could be an advisor. They could be other things. Sometimes you will see just a slight little bit of your impressions that will go to kind of other titles. That's typically what it is, but also probably the biggest culprit for this is audience expansion. So audience expansion, I mentioned this earlier, is an option in Campaign Manager, and it will expand your reach to people who LinkedIn thinks is applicable to the audience you're trying to target. Now, when they do that, you will see your reach expand to people who maybe aren't applicable at times. And we only recommend that you use audience expansion to like very qualified audiences. For example, it could be like a list of people who've maybe converted before. That kind of audience, maybe someone who's watched a good percentage of a video. I would base audience expansion off that. But that's typically the biggest culprit. It would be audience expansion. Now, it's worth noting how we taxonomize data as well. Like job titles, for example, can sometimes lend themselves to multiple job titles. For example, like, I don't know, like CEO, like there's obviously, that's chief executive officer. Sometimes other titles can derive out of that, but that shouldn't like impact you massively. But if you are seeing a big distribution of your impressions serving to other titles that just aren't applicable to CEO, it's most likely because you have audience expansion on.
Interesting. We have one question about Supermetrics here as well, and that's how Supermetrics could bring more value than Google Analytics. Are there different focus areas, services, etc.? So I would say we're not in any way a competitor to Google Analytics. We're more of add-on or a different thing. We're bringing data from different platforms, so you can take your Google Analytics data and bring it, for instance, to a spreadsheet, or look at it together with your ad data in the same reports and analysis, or you can take that Google Analytics data and move it to a data warehouse or some storage solution that you have. And then you know that even with all the changes going on in web analytics, with Google sunsetting Universal Analytics by the end of the year, you'll own your data and you'll have it stored in your own data warehouse solution. So we're in no way trying to compete with Google Analytics, but being a service that you can use together with all of these different web analytics, marketing platforms, sales platforms, CRMs. So more of helping you bring your data to one place. And going back to LinkedIn question, there's a question about, can you adjust settings so that LinkedIn ads only show on certain days?
No, not as of yet, to be honest. When you set a campaign live, it will just run continuously until you turn it off. I believe that could be a feature down the pipeline, but not right now. So if you want to run a campaign, for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you will have to go in, launch on Monday, and then turn off on Thursday morning or Wednesday. I know that's not the answer you probably wanted, but that's the solution in place right now.
Yeah, and then another question about so does the reporting provide insight into the successes of specific targeting metrics, for example, which job function is converting at a higher rate?
Yes, it does. I think I saw somebody in the Q&A there. Someone has my back. So you can look into what's called the campaign demographics in Campaign Manager. So it will show where your impressions are serving. It could be, job function, seniority, companies reached, etc. And where, what function is converting, what seniority is converting. Just to note, you do need a minimum of 3 conversions for that function to show, because we have to anonymize that data by law. So we can't show you one conversion because that would be identifying an individual in our platform. It has to be anonymized. So if you ever see that it's below the minimum reporting that we require, it's because you haven't generated 3 conversions for that specific function or seniority. But that's maybe the campaign demographics is one of the most powerful tools, because you can get a clear breakdown of who exactly is converting and where you can actually focus your budget. And also just understand where your impressions are serving. It could be for a particular country, a particular seniority. And kind of for example, what I often get is that if you're targeting senior level or manager level people, a lot of your impressions will serve to those people and maybe not serve up to more of those senior level people. It's a good thing for you to have an overview of, because there is value in targeting some of those lower level people. They're typically cheaper to acquire from a cost per lead perspective, and there is obvious value in terms of kind of multi-threading, generating leads from across the business and engaging that buyer committee. So once you kind of identify that, you can segment your campaigns and segment your messaging based on that seniority. So that's just one quick piece you could use campaign demographics for, but there's tons of use cases. So definitely jump in. If you search campaign demographics LinkedIn on Google, it will instantly pop up. Jump in, play around with it, and I'm sure you'll immediately see success on that.
Yeah, that's by far one of my most favorite thing to do, is just go and see what companies and what titles we've reached when we're doing campaigning. And that's also when we've been testing out APMs. That's been really powerful to get to show our sales teams that, hey, this is actually the companies we're reaching, and these are how many we're the engagement rates and stuff, because that really gets them fired up as well. So when usually maybe clicks and impressions aren't that's interesting to people outside of the marketing team.
Yeah, and we do have also, you can look into lists as well when you go into your matched audiences. Sophie, I'm sure you're aware of this, but you can click into the list you've uploaded yourself onto LinkedIn, and it will break down who exactly has engaged in that list. It will give you engagement levels, unique engagements, stuff like that. That also is very good to feed into your sales team. And if you do have access to an account team here at LinkedIn, they can also kind of elevate those insights further. So to your point, Sophie, campaign demographics, especially for ABM, it's one of our most powerful resources we have in LinkedIn to elevate results.
Yeah, really cool stuff, that all that demographic and those insights on lists as well. I think we're coming up on time. Should we take one more question and before we end the webinar?
Yep, absolutely. Make it a goodie.
Oh, high pressure.
No pressure.
Let's see. So Clara is asking, where does LinkedIn show the number of unique site visitors by audience segment and or time spent on your website as shown on the step 4 measure in the deck?
Sorry, is this a question? So LinkedIn does not show like time spent on your website. So like, but it does show like site visitors. If you go into what's called like we do have website demographics in Campaign Manager. It does give you an overview of who's visiting your website once you have the LinkedIn Insights tag installed, and it will basically translate that website activity like into LinkedIn lingo, like what functions are visiting your website, what seniorities are visiting your website. It is a nice piece to look at because it will just give you an overview of if you want to target people who are visiting maybe a specific set of pages. It will give you an overview of what LinkedIn is saying, who are those people, and then you can translate that into your targeting for your campaigns. So that's one piece. In terms of website visits, we do report on, obviously, like if people click your ads and visit your website, that's something that Campaign Manager also reports on, but it's not unique. Somebody can obviously click your ad twice and visited your website, and that will count as 2 website visits. So it's an important thing to note. But if you have an audience building maybe for retargeting, that will collect some of those people as well. Like it will give you some sort of overview of how many people have visited your website from LinkedIn, so long as you have the Insights tag installed and it's a minimum of 300 members. And luckily, I have Supermetrics here. So Supermetrics can obviously help you break all of that down. So like absolutely, I think we have that piece bundled up pretty well with Supermetrics.
Yeah, and definitely like it's good to have data from different sources so you get like the full picture of what the people do after they end up on your site after they've clicked the ad and get that site time on site, for instance, from your web analytics platform. Okay, but I think then we're thank you so much everybody for all the questions you submitted. I think we got over 80 questions or 90 even, so really happy to see so much active participation here. And just wanted to lastly shout out that Supermetrics has recently launched a community. So if you want to stay up to date on marketing data and everything that's going on with Supermetrics and chat with other people who are excited or interested in marketing data, please join our community. The link is now visible on the screen, and I think we've also posted it in the chat. So welcome to join the community if you want to be even more up to date on what we're doing here at Supermetrics and everything marketing data. And thank you, Greg, so much for joining us and
thank you for having me,
sharing all this super interesting stuff on LinkedIn ads. And yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm on LinkedIn if you would like to connect, so more than happy to connect with you there. And Supermetrics, thank you so much for having us. This has been amazing.
Thank you.